Anthony Irwin is here. He covers the Lakers for Lakers Daily. He's the host of the Lakers Lounge. We're talking about Lakers Media Day today. We could start anywhere. LeBron James, Bronny, Anthony Davis, JJ Redick, D'Angelo Russell made some headlines with his media session. Thanks for jumping on, Anthony. What stood out to you from Lakers Media Day?
Well, I mean, it's impossible to talk about that event without talking about how much the players appear to have openly hated Darvin Ham. And it's really rare, honestly, to see a head coach, over the course of last season, with all of the reporting done about how disgruntled players were in the locker room, the issues with his coaching, how unprepared he was, and stuff like that, and some of the stuff that went on the sideline. Normally, players will come to their coach's defense, even for the sake of PR, like anything. You'll get like oh, that's cap tweet, or oh, these reporters will say anything nowadays to get
Mm-hmm.
clicks. Nothing over the course of last year, as I and others were reporting about that kind of relationship really eroding between Ham and the players. And then yesterday, it was almost as if the players were looking at the media that was there and anybody who was talking about the team, like, you guys didn't go far enough. Like, it was really bad last year. And I think that
Mm.
is something that, for a team that doesn't really have much to rally around right now. There was improvement to the roster this year. I think LeBron is pretty aware that this team isn't quite good enough. It's looking for something to really kind of rally around. And I guess the common denominator here with everybody in that locker room is, well, at least JJ isn't that guy.
What was the term D'Angelo Russell used? Winging it? We're past the winging it phase. And I'm like, that's maybe the worst thing you could say about a head coach is that he spent the entire season winging it, right?
Yeah, it was insane. It's absolutely insane. Anthony Davis is if he's pushed to the brink, he'll finally say something. But for the most part, he's just kind of go with the flow type of guy, super competitive, very talented, all of those things. But it really takes a lot for Anthony Davis to throw shade. And over the course of last year, he was throwing shade at Darvin, and he was like really annoyed at times with how little the scouting report seemed to kind of change for depending on who the Lakers were playing. It was just this like really weird relationship that Darvin had with the players. And you kind of fast forward to yesterday where D'Lo was saying that they're winging it. There was another player who was, gosh darn it, I think it was Jared Vanderbilt, was saying how, like, things are a little bit more organized this time around
Mm-hmm.
compared to last year. I think, NBA players have this kind of reputation for not wanting to be coached and not liking the administration that much. But I think, smart NBA players do recognize that there's real value in the advantage that a coach can present you. And I think, these guys, the Lakers who remain from last year, which is basically everybody, recognizes that at least in this regard, it would be really difficult for JJ to be worse than Dark.
Yeah, and it's funny what you said about maybe the players didn't think that the media went far enough in the criticism of Darvin Ham, but I think watching the Lakers last year, it's not surprising that they weren't the best coach team in the league, but I do think a team that just has LeBron James kind of has like this inherent sense of structure with it all the time, and maybe it was just the players kind of again winging it, doing whatever it was that they wanted to do. I don't know how strong that language necessarily is compared to what was really going on behind the scenes, but if you're just getting somebody, and the one, I don't know if JJ Redick's going to be a good coach or a bad coach, but the one thing that everybody says is he's really prepared. So maybe Justin, if he's just more prepared than what the players believe Darvin Ham to be, then that's probably just an improvement. And so I guess the vibe around Lakers Media Day was like, this guy's just gonna be like, everybody seemed pretty excited about the JJ Redick hire, and I guess despite the lack of maybe changes on the roster, that maybe this is going to be a better season for them. Or
I think an important element of every NBA team or sports team is buy-in to the coach, right? And belief in a coach. And I think these guys believe in JJ Redick because of that element, that aspect of preparation and JJ really seems to want to succeed in this. He's a crazy competitive guy, right? You don't like. I think he went all but one season in his career making the playoffs.
Mhm.
He retires and immediately vaults to like the top of the basketball content industry, right? He's a crazy competitive, crazy driven dude. And I think that's something that NBA players really respect about him. And you watch the Lakers last year, and one of the things that I reported was that, like, Darvin had lost that locker room by Christmas.
Mm.
They were really kind of shocked after last year's media day, where the messaging was, well, we can't wait to build on the continuity. Remember, last year they returned much of the same team that made it to the Western Conference Finals, and all of those guys, especially that core, was really excited about, well, we can't wait to see what we look like next season when we have more than a few months to kind of build the airplane mid-flight. And the everybody in the organization from top down was really excited about that. That's all that Rob Pelinka was talking about. That's all LeBron was talking about. That's all Anthony Davis was talking about. Unfortunately, Darvin Ham missed all of the memos, like was just left off of the email train all together. And I think, like, when they started the season and Darvin would not play the best lineup from the previous year, those guys, those seven guys, LeBron, AD, D'Lo, Austin, Rui, Vando, and I guess to a different extent, Christie, all those guys were like, hold on, what?
Right.
What's going on?
And that's what was so funny about when JJ Redick went on Zach Lowe's podcast. Zach Lowe basically, what are you going to start? He goes, the one that went 23-11. Like, duh.
Yeah.
That was it was kind of funny the way that he phrased that. Speaking of D'Angelo Russell, he might have had the most eye-opening sort of media session in terms of just like what he was saying in regards to Darvin Ham and maybe JJ Redick, obviously, but like just how he kind of viewed himself. And I kind of have a soft spot for D'Angelo Russell. I covered him for the half year that he was with the Golden State Warriors. I wrote a feature on him. I got to know him and his family a little
Yeah.
bit. So I admittedly have a little bit of soft spot, but I do think the annual D'Angelo Russell epiphany is just a great storyline,
Yeah.
What was the epiphany this year from D'Angelo Russell?
Apparently he's going to be Kawhi Leonard on defense this year,
It's great.
which really excited about. Last year it was Derek White. So
Last
he
year
was
was
like,
Derek
you know
White.
what?
Yep.
Derek White isn't enough. That's I set my sights a little too low.
Right.
I need
Shoot
to go
for
a
the
little higher.
stars and maybe you land on the moon, right? Yeah.
Maybe this year he will be Derek White.
Yeah.
By trying to be Kawhi Leonard,
Right.
he'll be Derek White this year. D'Lo is a fascinating guy because I think he's very intelligent. I think he's a
Yes.
very, very intelligent person. I think he's a very self-aware person, but I also think he can be very selfish. And I think, one of the things that I keep hearing about him is that, like, he reads situations extremely well as a human being. He's very aware of everything going on around him. But one of the things that he's just kind of missing is a filter and an understanding of when to say certain things. And a case in point last year was the Lakers were actually playing good basketball. Things were really kind of turning around. And he sat down for an interview with Dave McMenamin of ESPN and just obliterated the organization. And, I have, friends who covered him in Golden State, covered him in Brooklyn, people who worked for the organizations back when he was at those spots. And I got like 3 texts right away. Yeah, that's same old D'Lo, and I too, like, I like the person to the extent that I know of him. I've never spoken to him. I think he's a very talented player. I think he has very clear flaws and holes in his game. But overall, I do find myself rooting for him. It's just that, those flaws, those weaknesses are impossible to get over when you get to the postseason. So I think he's even very aware of, yeah, I think I'm probably an 82 game player. I'm not really so much of a 16 win player. So let's try to maximize those 82 games so I keep getting these contracts that the teams can use me as an expiring on.
In terms of how the Lakers want to play this year, I think we understand that JJ Redick is going to want to incorporate more 3-point shooting. He's already spoken a little bit about maybe playing LeBron James off the ball a little bit more to the extent that LeBron James can play or should even play
Yeah,
off the ball,
or will
uh,
want to.
or
Yeah.
would want, right. But any more indication on or clarity on what you expect from a JJ Redick led Lakers team this year, how it might look on the court?
I think the two major notes has been his emphasis on offensive rebounding and allowing Rui Hachimura last year, you look at all of his stats and you would say, holy crap, this guy had a hell of a year. But his impact on winning didn't necessarily match that step forward statistically.
Hmm.
And I think one of the problems was that like Rui, when he was scoring, was a huge impact player. And he actually, if he's scoring, he's playing the best defense of his life because he's just enjoying being out there on a basketball court. And I think one of the things that, especially with Rui starting, with him being announced as a starter, one of the things that JJ is really going to be focused on is getting Rui to impact winning, even if he isn't scoring or in those moments that he doesn't happen to be scoring. And that corner crashing stuff, Rui is going to be on the weak side. He is going to be sitting there in the corner. And when the shot goes up last year, he would just kind of like float and then trot back on defense. This year, the expectation for him is going to be to really crash hard and and try to force teams to not be able to run as quickly on the Lakers. So that's one thing, just to focus on offensive rebounding from guys like Rui or anybody else who's in that opposite corner. And then like the LeBron off ball thing, JJ made sure to say this isn't just LeBron go stands in the corner. This is doing, moving him off the ball strategically so that when he does get the ball, he can be the most efficient. And one of the types of sets that I think are my favorite to watch from the Lakers are the ones where Austin has the ball or LeBron has the ball, and they do some kind of a pick and roll for each other, whether it's standard or inversed. And if it's a standard one, and you have Austin on the ball, and you get LeBron James in the short roll against a compromised defense already moving downhill, I just legitimately don't know what you do with him defensively there. He's going to find the right pass to make, or he's going to score. It's just going to work out in your favor. And I think those are the types of things that JJ really wants to add more to the offense consistently. So I think it's those two factors strategically, but I think also very importantly, culturally. The Lakers, I had a scout last year go on the record and say that the Lakers run good stuff, but we almost feel like we don't have to scout for it because we know they're going to wander away from it. They just aren't a very organized team. And I think one of the things JJ is really going to bring to the table here with that amount of preparation is a focus on, we aren't just going to wander away from our good things. We aren't just going to stop running good offense because we're talented enough to do so with LeBron and Anthony Davis. So those three factors, I think, are going to be the major additions culturally to what the Lakers are bringing to the table.
There's a bunch of stuff you hit on there that I kind of want to touch on, but just in general, when somebody takes over as a head coach, you get a new head coach on a team. Certain head coaches believe in certain things. Am I going to crash the offensive rebound? Are we going to crash for offensive rebounds? Or are we going to get back on defense? Do we want to push the pace, or do we want to be a little bit more methodical? Are we going to, emphasize 3-point shots or shots at the rim, right? And, everything's a little bit of a trade-off. I think based on some of the stuff that you're talking about and some of the things that we've heard about JJ Redick, the fact that he's going to push offensive rebounding, I think, is different than what Darvin Ham did or didn't do last year. You already mentioned the buy-in. That's a huge part of any sort of rebounding scheme. Is like, are you guys going to buy in? Are you going to be a group rebounding defensive team? Are you going to be an offensive, like we're going to crash the glass team? And then do it consistently, not just for the first couple of weeks of the season. Do it through all 82 games. So we'll see on that. The Lakers were bottom 5 in the league in 3-point attempts per game. I would imagine that that's going to go up. He's already talked about, like, I think Rui Hachimura was talking about taking more threes this year. It sounds like Anthony Davis is probably going to take more threes this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that means he's going to make more threes this year, but he's going to take them this year. I think LeBron just keeps taking more threes as he gets older, so I think that's going to naturally happen too. The Lakers were top 5 in pace last year, but that was sort of like and I don't know about you, but I kind of felt like that was a fake pace number. That was more like, we're not really playing defense, so we're just sort of getting out and running anyway. There's like good pace and bad pace.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like the Lakers had bad pace, right? It was just sort of like it felt like a pickup game out there sometimes, and maybe they want to keep the pace going up, but in a way that makes a little bit more sense. But in anything else from like the JJ Redick sort of manifesto here that you can think is going to be either different than Darvin Ham or just maybe a big part of how the Lakers are going to play?
That pace note is a great one because when the Lakers won the championship, they actually played pretty slow.
Hmm.
And where they really hurt teams, though, was that when they did get out and run, they were hyper efficient. If they did get a stop, and if like the stop took place above the free throw line, it was a bucket for the Lakers, in short order. And I think last year they went from being a quality over quantity pace team to a quantity over quality pace team.
Mm.
And they just looked really inefficient at times when they did try to run the ball, which is a really bad equation for a LeBron team where he doesn't like running particularly much. And then if they're running inefficiently, he's just going to like not participate
Right.
in them running. And if LeBron isn't participating in any aspect of your offense, you're a worse team. Um, so I think that's a great thing to keep an eye on over the course of the year. The 3-pointers is real. One of the things that I keep hearing from people close to that situation is that like if somebody doesn't take an open 3-pointer in a drill or in a scrimmage or anything like that, they get hounded by the
Mm.
coaching staff. They let it know. No, you have to take that shot. And it's again, that's just a matter of we have this vision of how we're going to operate, and here's how we're going to make sure everybody executes that vision. Whereas like Darvin Ham would always like if the Lakers actually operated using some of the talking points that Darvin Ham would mention, they'd actually be a well-coached team. It's
Right.
just that he didn't have any follow-up or follow-through on making sure that the Lakers executed his vision for it. And so those the 3-pointers, and then often, a lot of the focus in this conversation has been offensively, but defense is where I have some real concerns about this team, right? Jared Vanderbilt isn't going to be available, it looks like, for the beginning of the year. Gabe Vincent is going to be available for the beginning of the year. But if Gabe Vincent is like your point of attack, your best point of attack defender on the roster, you're going to kind of struggle a little bit. He's too small to be seen
Mhm.
that way. So, one of the conversations I actually just had in the lounge yesterday with Cranges, who does the Lakers Exceptionalism pod, we talked about maybe moving LeBron to the 3 a little bit more often, so that when you're the 4 and you need to be seen as this like weak side defender, your rotations are probably the longest of anybody on the court. Those kinds of things. If LeBron is positioned there, it really makes your defense kind of weak.
Mm.
And I'm really curious how Redick uses LeBron defensively this year, or if he basically tells Rui, "No, you're the 4 defensively. You got to make these rotations. You have to be more active on the rebounding so that LeBron, when he does, because he's going to do it. I heard a story from a scout, I think it was for the Pacers, who said like, we went to play them, and LeBron, in the first screen that was set on him, fought to get over the screen, and we all as a coaching staff looked at each other, was like, damn it.
Oh
It's going to
no.
be one of those games,
Right.
because LeBron essentially has
Right.
one of two games. He'll either fight over those screens or fight to get through those screens, or he'll point. And he's like,
Right.
dang it, this isn't a pointing game. And those pointing games really hurt you when he's at the 4. I would maybe argue everybody looks at the 5 as the most important defender on the court for good reason. They tend to win defensive players of the year. But the 4 is not very far behind,
Mhm.
because they have to make sure, like, they have to work in sync with each other. And I just don't think LeBron and AD were in sync defensively because of LeBron being 40 years old. So those are the 3 main things to keep an eye on this year.
Last thing before I get you out of here, got to ask about LeBron and Bronny. They had a lot of cool like father-son moments at media day. Bronny was asked if he was going to commute to work with his dad, which is honestly something that I did think about
Yeah.
before, and he said no. Any other sort of fun stories, revelations, and also you can answer that one first, and then the second follow up is going to be basically, are we at the point, or do you think we'll get to the point where maybe Lakers fans, Lakers media are starting to roll their eyes at the whole LeBron Bronny thing, or is this just going to be fun all the way around?
Um, it really depends on how good Bronny is,
Hmm.
because if Bronny goes out there and clearly doesn't belong on an NBA court, that's when people will very quickly roll their eyes.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, they keep on saying how the Lakers should just roll Bronny out there so you don't get the questions all year about when is Bron and Bronny going to play together? Like, when is that going to happen? Um, if or if or when Bronny actually takes the court, he has to be hyper ready because of all of the calls for nepotism. I don't care about the nepotism. It's the Lakers. Like, the Lakers are nepotism. So like drawing the line at Bronny James for where the nepotism is ruining the Lakers is just, it's lost on me. But there are enough people and there is going to be enough noise to where if Bronny gets on the court and he isn't ready, that's when people, I think, are going to be kind of sick of the story. As of now, it's mostly cute. It's mostly funny. LeBron said yesterday that when Bronny was like 5 years old, he dribbled through some defenders and made a layup. And I guess he told everybody sitting around him, see, he's going to be special. I've seen this. I know what this looks like. He's going to be special. So LeBron is an AAU dad, confirmed, I guess. But yeah, I think for the most part, it's a fun story. The Lakers, I don't think are, going to really actually compete for a championship this year. I think LeBron's very aware of that too. He gave a quote the other day before media day where he's like, I'm just going to take it all in. I'm going to take in playing with Bronny. I'm going to take in competing at this level at this stage of my career. And I'm going to just really kind of have fun with it. So I think he's aware that this team is not at the level that it needs to be as well. And we'll see how long he's okay with that, because it's one thing to say that before the season. It's another thing to lose half of your games
Right.
regularly, and how much patience he's going to have. He's not a patient dude. You know this,
Yep.
like you watched him there in Miami. We've all watched him over the course of his career. He's not patient, and he's not okay with merely existing on an NBA court. So, yeah, that, it'll be a fun story for a little bit, and and there'll be some novelty to it. But if the Lakers aren't good, or if Bronny isn't ready, that novelty is going to wear off, I think, really quickly.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the time.
Hey, thanks for having me.